You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What's up, y'all? This is the Royals Farm Report here on Kansas City Sports Network. I'm Joel Penfield. Alex is out this week. He's on a well-deserved vacation somewhere off the grid with his family. Josh Kaiser joining me as always. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing swell. I'm not used to hearing what's up, y'all. This is Royals Farm Report. I'm used to you going, what's up, y'all. This is one Royal way. So already throwing me off my game. I don't know about all this. Throwing me a curveball right out of the gate.
Sorry, dude. Yeah, I had to hit you with an OO curveball when you were sitting dead red. If we want to continue with the baseball analogies here.
Showing confidence and pitching me from reverse.
Yeah, pitching you from behind it. There we go. Yep. We're still going to do the normal minor league minute stuff. And this is going to be the same usual show that you're used to without the beautiful face and voice of Alex Duvall on this episode. But as always, this show brought to you by Kansas City Strength and Conditioning. We'll hear a quick word from them.
From the beginning, we knew right away that we wanted to do strength conditioning and a throwing program for the baseball and softball community. It wasn't something we were trying to back into or all of a sudden learn. We knew we were really good at coaching these skills from the get-go, and the fact that we're in the same business and the employees are all on the same page, we can write a program based off of what a kid needs, not just getting him stronger or faster from a general sense. It's what does this kid need? On the pitching end, we can say, hey, this kid needs such and such. He needs to do this or that better. A lot of times it turns out it's not something that needs to be fixed in the baseball cage or on the throwing mound. It actually needs to be fixed in the weight room.
Thank you once again to KCSC for sponsoring this show. Be sure to check them out if you have a baseball or softball player in the area that needs a place to train. All right, Josh, so to talk about the big league club for a little bit to begin the show like we usually do, and this obviously ties into what we talk about here on this show, with the hiring of Alec Zumwalt and Mike Dozier, we knew that there would be some changes to hitting, and hopefully it was going to work out better, and the message was going to come across better to the hitters than what Terry Bradshaw was trying to get across. And obviously it wasn't working, so they make the change. And it seemingly is working out the way we thought it would. We were big believers in what Zumwalt and Dozier were going to be able to bring, and it's paying dividends to not just the young guys, but the veterans as well.
Absolutely. And I think, we kind of talked about it at first that we thought it would make a bigger deal developmentally with the younger guys. We thought the vets were kind of stuck in their ways. They got their process. So it wasn't going to affect them. Not the case at all. There's plenty of improvement to be had with this terrible lineup, and they did improve. So it's kind of cool to see that not just the young guys were benefiting from Zumwalt and Dozier and all the reassignments, but also the veterans are coming back up. So it was very interesting. Blair Kirchhoff did an article the other day, kind of focusing on Zumwalt and his transition from I think they said he had 9 different positions within the organization in the past, and now being in Kansas City. Is he in uniform? Is just Dozier in uniform?
I believe he's in uniform.
Okay, so yeah,
I
just
think
the
they both are. I think they both
they
are.
talked about like the day-to-day routine, but also like fostering those relationships with all the players, not just the young guys that they're kind of used to working with. So really good article there, but it kind of just inspired a little bit of thought on how this last month has gone under Zumwalt and Dozier outside of Bradshaw. I kind of did some more digging, kind of looked at a little more numbers before May 16th was when the reassignments kind of happening that Bradshaw was fired. The Royals were 27th in WRC plus at 79. They had a 27th in OBP at 290 and 28th in ISO at 112. And since then, they have a 108 WRC plus, which is 14th, They're still 26th in OBP at 319, but they're 18th in ISO at 155. So definitely some, lineup adjustments being made potentially, but also potentially some warm weather issues, just kind of getting settled into the daily routine and grind. So there's certainly some improvement. It's certainly not missed on the field whatsoever.
Oh, certainly not. And I know the on base percentage still is a little gross, but but honestly, like I think that's just an organizational thing that's gone on. Even when they're winning games in 13, 14, 15, they were a team that did not walk. They were going to be aggressive and they were going to hit the ball, and they're finding ways to make the quality of contact is getting better. That's where you're seeing the weighted runs created plus come up. Everybody is making significant jumps. Michael A. Taylor was around 80, 84. I think it was 84 prior to that May 16th. Right now he's up to about 125, 130, somewhere in there.
I got 94 prior to the change and 217 since.
Well,
217.
Yeah, that's pretty damn good, and that also has had a COVID stint in there too. So, obviously, he was able to work on some things during that time and figured something out, and has turned himself into a really nice piece with the Royals and potentially a really nice trade piece come July 31st, which was something I did not expect. Andrew Benintendi has continued to hit up in that trade value. Hunter Dozier had 4 hits the other night. Bobby's hitting the ball a lot better. MJ is doing incredible stuff all around. But it's really nice to see the lineup coming together. Now it's meshed with the pitching staff and the changes that need to be made there inevitably. And I think we're looking at a little more of a bright future, I think. I'm not – this season is what it is, but this coaching change is certainly giving me some room for optimism that the future is bright with the coaching staff in place on the hitting side right now.
Yeah. And that kind of speaking of the pitching staff, Sam McDowell, also with the KC Star, had a really interesting article this last week talking about, the lack of development, a lack of step forward in the young guys, especially when they come back, they get reassigned to Omaha, figure something out and come back. He kind of broke it down from like their first outing. They have 1 run over 19 2/3 of an inning. Their second outing, 7 runs over 18 in the third innings pitch. And then their third outing is 33 runs over 52 innings. It's a 5.71 ERA. He even threw Lynch and Keller in there. They both had really stellar starts. And then they definitely came crashing back down to earth. But it just seems to come back to any significant time spent in Kansas City seems to it is what it is. You get more tape, more information. People are starting to see your stuff more. It makes sense. But it does seem like there is something going on in the water in that clubhouse that is not allowing the pitchers to make any kind of progression, which sucks.
Yes. I mean, we all have our feelings on the common denominator here. I think that we can all go back to, but we don't need to go down that rabbit hole right now.
Right.
Which we certainly have our confirmation biases when it comes to that particular tweet and that part of the article. It just, so we already it was something we already knew. So therefore we really want to believe it. But it's just confirmation of stuff we already knew, that the longer that they're around the pitching coach in Kansas City, the less effective they are. So, I mean, it's a pretty simple equation here, guys. So I'm no expert here, but it seems like a change could help these guys maybe sustain at the big league level. That said, John Heasley went out, and I think it was his 4th start, 7 shutty on Friday night against Baltimore. So it looks like he's figured something out, but hopefully Lynch and some others can figure something out here soon. But that is a massive, massive problem.
Yeah.
And that's an understatement.
It's just interesting that, they do the hitting thing. They fire the Terry Bradshaw. They bring in the guys that are still within the organization, comfortable, have been fostering relationships for the last 2 or 3 seasons, and they're having success in that. So it's very interesting that they're still sticking to their guns with Cal Eldred. I don't know if that's the main issue here. The evidence kind of seems to point to that, and so does the bias that is on social media. But it's just interesting how they're so willing to part with Terry Bradshaw, but they're sticking right to their guns with Cal Eldred, even though arguably worse results coming from it.
There are certainly reasons to it, and reasons I'm not going to get into on air. But to put it, in general terms, I think they knew they had a surefire solution to the hitting side. If it didn't work out with Terry Bradshaw, they could go to midseason. Dane Johnson and what they're doing down in AAA seemed like that could be an option, but then you're reshuffling the minor league coaching staff as well midseason. So there's some politics there, and that can get kind of weird. So I think it was just a more surefire option to get make that hitting change midseason rather than the pitching, even though the pitching is a significant problem. But they knew they had an in-house option that they could go to for hitting.
And I mean, Tosar, like we've talked about, not necessarily an in-house directly option, but they've had so much, interaction with him. They are very familiar with him. So it makes more sense that they kind of bring him in from the outside. You fill a position. It's not nearly as bad. I do need to make a correction to what I said earlier. The OBP is 319, but that's good for 16th.
Okay. So okay. That's a little bit better.
Relatively a lot better.
I think it was Randy, you know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to try to butcher his last name, but he said the end is nigh because the Royals are 8th in the American League in walks right now since they made that change. So when the Royals start taking walks, we know that things are getting a little weird out there in the streets.
Hell's pretty damn cold at the moment. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that's an interesting thing to follow though, because the quality of a bat, they have guys in the lineup. They put together pretty quality at bats. And Carlos Santana, MJ Melendez with the young guys is certainly doing that. Bobby is putting together better at bats. It's still not where you want him to be, but he's getting to that nitro zone a little more now. Yeah. And hitting he's always hit the ball hard, but now he's stringing together those hard contact batted balls more consistently. He had that 3 for 24, something like that. And and then since then he's hitting like 588 since that streak ended. Which was the Wednesday game against the Blue Jays, I believe, was that first multi-hit game. And then he strung together, I think 3 of the next 4 games were multi-hits, including 3 hits on Sunday. So everyone's starting to round into form here, and Hunter Dozier even had a 4-hit game out of nowhere. So
I don't know. I mean, he's done that a couple times. I was looking at it today. He's carrying a 326 BABIP, but his average 270. I'll take that every day of the week from him. I mean, that is kind of giving us a little bit more justification for that extension he got. And I was wondering why nobody was really talking about him as being a potential trade candidate.
I was about to bring that up. Because Jared Perkins mentioned it to me on One Royal Way last Thursday. And I didn't really think about it that hard, or not something I had expected to be brought up, because when the Royals sign a guy like that to a contract extension, they are very loyal to that contract. We're seeing it with Merrifield and others that makes me think they wouldn't. And I also don't know. And it also feels like a scenario similar to what Merrifield, at least at this point. Do the Royals value him probably a hell of a lot more than other organizations? Where are you going to play him? I know the universal DH certainly helps, but is he an everyday DH type? I don't think so. But do you really want to stick him out in a corner outfield spot or at third base or first base, and you cross your fingers and you do the sign of the cross and pray that he's not going to dork something up out there? Like, the Royals are willing to do that, but I don't know if another team is.
There's certainly, I mean, I think his metrics kind of suggest he's better at first base than he is in the corner and and third base. So it's interesting that people can be okay with bad defense as long as they're producing at the plate, which right now he is for the most part. He's not hitting for a lot of power, especially not when you want from a corner infield spot, but I think it's still serviceable. I looked at his contract. He's still got, $2 million left this year, and then next year 7.25. Year after that is 9, and then there's $1 million buyout on top of that. So, I mean, you're talking about another $20 million over the next 2.5 seasons. So that contract is a little bit tougher to unload, I think, at that point. But I mean, it's just something that you could potentially look at come the trade deadline. He's still owed quite a bit of money, especially relative to the rest of that contract. So he's going to start getting more expensive. And he's one of those guys that, I mean, I will always root for Hunter Dozier.
Same.
Considering the guys that are coming up and where the Royals seem to be wanting to play them, there's a lot of overlap with where Hunter Dozier plays as well. So he is kind of contributing to that logjam that is keeping Vinnie Pasquentino down, that is keeping Nick Prado down, that's keeping MJ Melendez, Kyle Isbell from getting everyday at bats. So you can afford to trade him. If you're in the front office, you might want to, but it's going to be tough, I think, even when he is producing like he is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they play that the rest of the year, because Like I said, I will always root for Hunter Dozier, but it still certainly feels like that 2019 season was a bit of an anomaly. He's turned that around a little bit this year, but this is really the first time since 2019 we've seen any sort of consistent production from him. So who knows if it sustains? And who knows if it sustains? If it does, then great. If not, then it is what it is with Hunter Dozier at this point.
It seems like it's very, very relative to his health. Every time you hear about him struggling, you also hear about some kind of tweak or some kind of sprain that he's not really talking about. So it's all relative to that with him.
Yeah, absolutely. So you'll hear more about this later this week on One Royal Way. We'll recap the week, and they're on a West Coast swing right now. So that's we got a lot of late nights to watch the Royals. But if you're looking to take your crew out to the K this summer, be sure to check out our friends at Tickets for Less. Ticketsforless.com has the best selection of tickets to all of your favorite sporting events, concerts, and shows, including the Royals. Tickets for Less never charges per ticket fees. So you are saving big time over other third-party sites out there. You can save even more when you use our exclusive partner code at checkout. Simply enter KCSN22 when ordering your seats at Tickets for Less. That is code KCSN22. And we're going to take a short break, and we will be right back. All right, welcome back, guys. We are going to get into the minor league minute for this week to talk about the minor league guys, and that is always brought to you by Drum Farm City Center for Kids down in Lee Summit Foster Care Center. They do great work in the community, and I'll let Alex do the full read, but you just know that they're helping us out with minor league minute this year, and be sure to go check them out every Saturday in the morning. Over at Drum Farm, they have like a little farmer's market where you can get fresh produce. They have apparently amazing cinnamon rolls, and that piques my interest. There's a little petting zoo for little kids, and we might need to do a little Royals Farm Report, a family meetup one of these Saturdays.
Yeah, buddy.
And go hang out. But be sure to go and support Drum Farm. They do a ton of great work there in Lee Summit, down on Lee Summit Road. So we're going to break up the doing the minor league minute. I'm going to take the Columbia and Northwest Arkansas reads, and Josh is going to do Quad Cities in Omaha. So getting into what we saw in Columbia, they're obviously really struggling this year. They're 16-41. They only take 2 out of 6 against the Augusta Green Jackets. All three of Mazzucato, Panzini, Cooter all pitched. Mazzucato and Panzini were okay. They both really struggled with command. The stuff is still really good. Panzini's stuff is ridiculous, but just was missing a lot with his fastball and kind of yanking his slider a little bit. But once he gets that, I mean, he's going to be just fine. The stuff still is really good and was getting some ugly swings. Mazzucato's still walking a lot of batters, which is concerning for a guy that coming in had really great command and pitchability. That's not something you want to see. And then Ben Cooter was great once again. He has been awesome. ERA still sub-1. He got tagged with the loss, gave up 2 or 3 runs, but he has still looked the part 100%. Has been the best of the 3 by far to this point. Is the ability for him to throw the changeup the way he has is amazing, considering it really wasn't a pitch that we really featured in high school. And it's now probably his second best offering as he's still working on his slider. And he's running his fastball up into the mid to upper 90s. So that's really nice for his development. Carter Jensen hit a walk-off on Sunday. He doesn't hit cheapies. That's for sure. And he hit a home run. I think it was on Saturday. So he's hitting the ball well. The OPS and like the underlying number, like the box score numbers don't look great, but he's still putting together pretty quality at bats for a lineup that really struggles. Eric Payne he hit a home run on Tuesday, which is awesome. But have you seen how many times he struck out, Josh?
I'm going to look that up. I was just wondering about that.
He has struck out 71 times in 43 games.
Oh, wait.
So that pick is not going to win me the fantasy league, at least how it sits right now. Like I said, 16-41 on the year
this week, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then there was a brawl on Saturday, like not like one of your standard hold me back guy brawls that where the bench is clear and it's just a bunch of John and fake toughness. No, there were dudes throwing punches, including one coward on Augusta that came out of nowhere, sucker punched a guy, friendly fired his teammate, and then ran away. Like that
was proper scrap.
It was a proper Donnybrook, that's for sure. Good old Tilly, pal. That's what you want. I've been watching a lot of hockey recently. So.
Plus Shorzy. Yeah.
Plus Shorzy's great show. But I wish I had more context to what happened here because
Yeah.
It looked like from the video that we saw, it looked like whoever was pitching that day, I wish I knew off the top of my head who it was, but kind of threw inside, just missed. I think it was a 4-pitch walk, and the batter kind of gestured to like, hey, get it over the plate. Something kind of chirped at him, and then all hell broke loose. But I think that's also, some of this is also just a culmination of a rough season for Columbia. So I'm sure there was a lot of pent up frustration that led to some of this escalating the way it did. I'm not trying to blame anybody on the Columbia side for it, but certainly is a little bit of a microcosm of what they've been going through this year.
It looked like the pitcher was very interested in scrapping.
Yes.
It was some John going back and forth, and he was the one who kind of pursued him down the line a little bit. So if anybody's responsible for it really dusting up, it's probably the Columbia pitcher. But the cheap shot was just cowardly. Just the worst. Like, I am all for getting after it, and I want some benches clearing. I love some punches being thrown, but give me some good contact. None of this sucker come up from behind, pop, and then try to fade back in the background. That's some cowardly stuff. Get out of here with that.
What's even funny about that is that you see the clip, he hits his buddy, runs away, and his teammate turns around like, what are you doing? Why?
Yep.
Where are you going? If you're going to be about that action, be about that action.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. I just saw there's a report now saying that the Major League is starting to consider pinning the fines and stuff on the parent team. So the Royals would be in this hypothetical situation that they would be the ones being fined for a scrap like that. So, which is fun. I mean, they're the ones that have the money to do it. So
yeah, the players don't.
If you're trying to discourage this stuff from happening, I don't like that. But if you're going to find someone, find the people with the money. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, absolutely. These dudes don't have enough money to be able to take
no.
30,000, like, or whatever. Like in the big leagues, like you fight, like it's like 50K almost off the rip. Like
100%.
These dudes aren't making half. Like they're not making half that. So,
and it's Columbia. Like,
and it's Columbia.
There's not a vet on a rehab assignment buying everybody dinner type of thing. It's those dudes are international signees or prep arms, seemingly. So they don't have that. They don't have that money to run around with.
All right, let's head to Quad Cities. What you got?
Let's go to Quad Cities. Very much the same as far as the struggles, and very much the same with the record. Went 2-4 against Peoria this week. Had some solid pitching, showings. The big one is Noah Cameron, our guy. Had another great start. Went 5 innings pitched. Was no earned, 9 Ks. Only allowed 5 base runners. Since joining Quad Cities, he had 4 starts, only 18 innings pitched, but his K percent is a 45.2% K rate, and his walk percent is 5.5. I mean, that's just absolute, utter domination. I love to see Noah Cameron out there shoving, only 6 earned runs over that time, so still a 3.0 ERA, but I do love to see Noah Cameron kind of get off. And that between him and Drew Parrish, I think Alex lovingly called them pie throwers, those lefty pie throwers. Both of them are doing relatively well in their respective years so far, but I do wonder about their prospect status. They don't have that overwhelming fastball that can kind of, get you out of places or at least increase the margin for error. Those dudes are going to be running a thin margin of error, a thin razor thin line between, getting just absolutely shellacked and being a serviceable MLB player. So it's very similar to what Chris Bubich is doing. Bubich has a little bit better fastball than both of them. His curveball is a little bit better as well. At least it was graded coming into the year. So that would be the pathway that you would kind of see them. And if you're like putting them shoulder to shoulder, that's probably the most accurate comp that you could probably see between them. So there is an outlet to get to the major leagues for Drew Parrish and Noah Cameron, but it's just going to be tough to be able to toe that line, I think, at that point.
The prospect status of those guys, like I have an affinity for dudes like that, like because that was me playing now to a much lower degree. But I was a soft toss and pie throwing lefty that relied on location, pitchability, and a good secondary. These dudes have all that.
Yep.
But soft toss and lefties aren't sexy.
No.
Like you want a Clayton Kershaw, you want a Mackenzie Gore, you want a Aroldis Chapman, a dude that's blowing shed, from the left side. You can get away with more as a soft tossing lefty, but are you really looked at as a much of a prospect? Not always. So that's just the thing. Like, it's not a sexy thing to scout of,
Yeah.
oh yeah, hey, this works really well at AA. Will it work in majors? I don't know, maybe.
Right.
And it's one of those, like, great if it does. And that's why the Royals stack these types of guys, because eventually one of them is going to work, because there is a place for that at the big league level. But what kind of prospect are they? I don't know.
And I mean, that we've talked about, that left-handed loogie thrower is giving the other team another thing to look at, completely different thing than you're seeing from like Will Klein or the Dylan Coleman or Josh Stallmans. So I think there is an absolute place for those guys. I just want to see them work out. It seems like both of them challenge guys. They do have a solid approach for what they have to throw at batters. So I'm curious to see how they kind of keep graduating and developing and see where they are at the end of the journey there. So going over to the batting side, we got an MVP in Quad Cities. Our MVP of the week, Diego Hernandez, slash 444, 474 at 833. He was 8 for 18 with 4 extra base hits, including a triple and a home run and a stolen base. So Diego Hernandez, again, Alex kind of talked about this on Twitter, posted some of the videos. We aren't sure how much power he has, so his prospect status or his prospect value is kind of still up in the air. You got to be able to do a lot of things really good if you're going to not hit the ball very hard. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens with Diego Hernandez, but he had a hell of a week. He's our MVP of the week.
That dude is a ton of fun. He plays a fun brand of baseball, and there's something to be said for that. And he does it.
I love it.
And he, at least right now, he's not trying to do something he's not. Like, he's not trying to sell out for power. It's just kind of coming, and it's coming in extra base hits and turning that single into a double and things like that. Like, he does all the little things well. For him being 21 years old, high A. Like,
that's right. Yeah.
He's playing really well, and well deserved being our MVP this week. Got anything else on Quad Cities?
They just had like 4 or 5 different guys. Tyler Gentry, McCullough, Peyton Wilson, Bates, and Strum all had OPSs over 800. So some solid performances, but it's still just translated into a 2 and 4 week. So it is what it is. Also, if you guys are listening to us and you're in the Quad City areas, I'm going to be in Quad Cities at Davenport, Iowa on Friday night to watch the River Bandits. So I'm pumped to go see them, and then I'll get to go see the Storm Chasers in Des Moines taking on the Cubs on Saturday. I'm sorry, I'm going to be in Friday in Davenport, and then Des Moines on Saturday. So if you're listening to us, you want to come say hi, give me a shout out.
There we go. That's awesome. Let's head down to the Texas League in Northwest Arkansas. Took 4 out of 6 from the Tulsa Drillers down there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. The Texas League pitcher of the week was Anthony Veneziano, through a complete game shutout, 7, and it was only 7 innings because it was a doubleheader, but it was one of the best performances in the Texas League that week. 5 strikeouts and only 1 walk, which is really big for him. The walks were horrendous early in the year for him, but he's certainly gotten that down. And he's doing it. He's starting to get the strikeouts back to where he was last year with a lot less velocity. He was up to 100 in Quad Cities last year. He's only worked 90 to 93 this year. So that does worry me a little bit, not from a prospect perspective, but just like an injury perspective. Like, what's he dealing with here to have that significant of a drop in velocity as a starter is a little concerning, but I'm not trying to speculate on anything. It's just just strikes me as a little bit odd. Alec Marsh had a very Robbie Ray-like start. If you're a fan of baseball, you know what I mean. He went 4 2/3, gave up 10 hits, 8 runs, and still had 7 strikeouts and no walks. So that's just certainly a factor of being too much in the zone, but very, very odd. Alec Marsh either gets absolutely lit up or they can't touch him, and there's not much in between there. And this certainly
when he gets lit up, he walks the world. He gives like 5 to 8 walks up, and I mean, it's very clear on his stat line that he was living in that zone. He was just trying to challenge dudes, and I mean, I like it. I wish he had better results, but it's a very interesting line.
Will Klein is back.
Yeah, he is.
4 innings this week out of relief, 1 walk, 7 punchies. So, and fastball running up to 99. I think I'm sure there was some triple digits in there. The gun is like -2 or 3 in Omaha or in Tulsa at times. So I know that from my scouting background that there were times where I saw Dustin Mason on 93. No, that was 97.
No.
Got it. Okay, yeah. So I'm sure the gun was a little cold. I'm sure he hit some triple digits in there, but good to see him back, not walking the world, kind of back in a more comfortable spot for him in the bullpen. I like the idea of starting him. I was perfectly cool with it. Very clear that it did not work early on. You still can try it again, but seems like he's very comfortable coming out of the bullpen, blowing cheese and punching dude's ticket. And
he's pitching multi-innings. Both those appearances this week were 2 innings each. So there's the Josh Hader player model type of thing there. Yeah. I'm interested in that.
And this is probably one of the most surprising things that I saw when looking back through the box scores and through highlights. Michael Garcia hit a home run.
What?
He hit his first one of the year.
I saw that. Michael Garcia.
I went, Michael Garcia? Wait. M. Garcia, huh? Who was that? Oh, yeah. But he had a good week as well. He's still hitting right around 295, OPS still over 800. So he continues to very, very quietly do his thing now. We talked about him a lot earlier in the year, but he's just still continued to rake, continue to produce. Rough week for our guy, Michael Massey, but your guy, John Rave, had a really nice week over his last 7, /313, 421, 813, couple homers, only 5 strikeouts, 3 walks. So good week for him. Sully hit a homer, I believe, which I believe it was a slider that he dove out and got and hit it to left center because that's just what Sully does. And they're still playing 500 ball. They're hanging around, and hopefully they have an opportunity to make a playoff run in the second half.
4-2 this week. So they're the only team in the organization that didn't go 2-4. So we'll go right to Omaha, who also went 2-4 against Lehigh Valley. A couple pitching performances of note. Austin Cox, really good start. 5 1/3, 1 earned, 6 hits, no walks, and only 1 strikeout. So definitely pitching to contact, but it certainly helped out there. We had some okay starts from Jackson Kowar and Carlos Hernandez. Kowar went 5 1/3, 3 earned, 9 hits, 2 walks, and 6 Ks. When I watched that start, it didn't seem like he was pitching better than that stat line shows. There was some weak contact that was, falling in and kind of took him out, and then one bad mistake pitch kind of took his night away from him. But Carlos Hernandez, 5 innings, 3 earned, 4 hits, 2 walks, and 2 strikeouts. He must be trying to figure out things, something else. It's kind of the same thing we saw from Kowar before he kind of rebounded. He wasn't really striking dudes out, still lasting plenty into the game, but just doesn't seem like he's fooling anybody. So hopefully he's working something out and kind of gets back to it there. And then Greinke had his rehab start yesterday, went 5 innings, no earned, 1 hit, 0 walks, and 4 strikeouts. So even though Greinke is playing against lesser competition in the minors, he's still not striking dudes out, which is interesting.
Well, that's just Zach Greinke, man. I don't question Zach Greinke. You can't question him at this point. Like
they obviously weren't squaring him up. Only 1 hit.
No. Yeah, so, I think he was perfect through 4 too.
Mm-hmm.
So seems like he'll be back on the mend and get back in the big league rotation here soon. Do we do our weekly gush about Vinnie segment now?
Well, we got Vinnie, but there's 2 other guys I want to hit. Nate Eaton got promoted, 15 games in Omaha right now. He's slashing 348, 375, and 652 this week with 4 extra base hits, a 1-to-1 walk to strikeout ratio. Since he came up, he's at a 906 OPS. So Nate Eaton's kind of not necessarily off the radar because we kind of been talking about him a little bit. But it is interesting to see his success so far. I don't think any of us saw a 906 coming from him.
He's hitting for power. He has hit some absolute moon bombs since he's gone to Omaha, including that walk-off job. It was the game that Vinnie hit a homer. Might have been last week, but Vinnie hit a homer, and then Nate Eaton hit a homer. The only 2 hits they had all night.
Yep.
And they still won 2-1.
Hey, that'll do it.
But it's Nate Eaton's going to be a big leaguer.
That would be fine. Yep.
I think he's going to be a big leaguer. He was not someone I ever thought would be. He was a guy that I was always intrigued by coming out of VMI. Just super toolsy, utility type, just fit kind of that Royals mold. Hit the ball hard. Always had a nice quality of contact. Didn't strike out a lot. Mm-hmm. Felt like a dude that maybe can make his way up. Was pretty good last year in High A. I think he played a little bit in Double A, but I can't quite remember.
You got a taste, yeah.
Got a taste. Has killed it in Double A. Now he's killing it in Omaha. I think we could see Nate Eaton in the big leagues by next year. I think they might put him on. He feels like the type of dude that they could stash on the 40, put him in Omaha. First opportunity, he's up.
Yeah. And I mean, there's not a whole lot of depth at third base, so that's certainly something that he could be find his way in there. The other guy, probably on the short list of any kind of call ups at middle infielders, Ivan Castillo. We kind of talked about him preseason, kind of a bat to ball guy, a lot of contact, not much power, decent in the field. This week, the last 2 weeks, he's really been kind of showing that good contact with 275 average, on base of 356, plays a solid shortstop, like we said. So he could be on the short list for any kind of injury or any kind of needed guy. He could be a body. I think he would have to be added to the 40-man.
I think he would. I think he was just a minor league only deal.
Yep. So that could be kind of something to get in the way. But he had a solid couple weeks here. But yeah, let's get to the guy, Vinnie Pasquentino. Another huge week from him, 1073 OPS from him. He went 6 for 20 with a double, 2 ding-dongs, and 5 walks to 2 strikeouts. I kind of wanted to see – we've been anticipating it. The fan base has been anticipating it. At some point, he's going to get the call. Obviously, it's not now. We thought, there's some speculation that with his being pulled in yesterday's game before the game was over, that it was time, and it was clearly not the time. There's been some guesses at the date. It's kind of turned into a like a baby shower pool when you're guessing the date and the weight and stuff. So we're going to guess the date, and then we're going to guess what he weighs at that. No, we're not going to do that. But I did want to do like an over under with you here. So a lot of people are saying the 624 game against the A's. It's the first one at home where after that West Coast trip, and people kind of speculated that could be potentially it. Put him around like 516 plate appearances. So it's got that 5 to 550 sample size that the Royals are wanting from the upper levels. So you want over under on 624.
Can I push?
Okay. Yep. It's going to put a damper on these other two options I'm going to give you though.
because I just want to be led to believe that he's going to get called up at some point. And I'm going to keep pushing for it, that I think it's going to happen sooner rather than later. I understand that, people are like, oh, well, they're trying to get all the most out of Carlos Santana. What else can you get out of him at this point? Ryan O'Hearn hasn't played. I kind of forgot he existed, which if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of see the shrug of how I feel about that, of not seeing him in the lineup every day. But I think it just at a certain point, they're going to have to make that move. He's going to force their hand. And it would not shock me if they want to give him a home debut. We talked about it when the Astros series came around, when he was hot, like he would have come into Kansas City on fire, but that obviously didn't happen. But it feels like the Royals would want to get a guy like that a home debut, considering the way the fan base feels about him right now. The way the fan base now feels about how we felt about Vinny since 2020. So that sort of validates all, what we do and how we feel. But I think it's going to happen very soon, especially if he stacks a really nice week on here. That's all he's been doing for the last month is stacking weeks. Well, seemingly. Considering he was in the middle of a 1 for 17 last week, and he's still hitting like 350 something. I think he's still hitting like 325 over his last 2 weeks. Yeah. He just bookended him with monster 4-day stretches. Yep. So the other 2 dates I had was the 4th of July, have a little fireworks. They're at the Astros for that, and that's around the time where he'd be about 550 on his plate appearances. So that is an option as well. And the other one I got here is the 722. There's a little bit of like an all-star break, I think is right before that. The first series back is against the Rays at home on July 22nd. Kind of gives them a little bit of time to work out a trade. They got to clear up some of that roster space between Benintendi or Santana or Dozier at that point would also help out with that. So it's kind of like a 6-game homestand after the date, after the All-Star break, that could be a potential as well. So kind of see how that goes. The other little small note that I'm throwing in here on top of this is we're talking about Carlos Santana's trade value, and I was kind of interested. He has gotten a lot hotter this last month. Let me see. Yeah, he was a 65 WRC plus prior to Bradshaw being fired, and now he's at a 98 on this last month. I think as a whole, he is an 81 WRC plus.
So I was kind of thinking about like what would he need to get to on the WRC plus to be dealable?
I guess what was Jorge Soler before he got dealt? Because Jorge Soler was one of the worst hitters in baseball, had a 10-game heater, and then he got traded.
Yeah.
So
and
who knows?
as a DH only. And
Yeah.
I mean, Santana, he plays a serviceable first base, which is not nothing. It's still something way more than Jorge Soler automatic DH. The one that I kind of brought up was Anthony Rizzo. He was at the time he was dealt, he was only a 112 WRC plus. Obviously, there's leadership there. He does play a pretty solid defense, I think. And he was only 31 at the time, so there was a little bit hope that he doesn't necessarily fall off the cliff at any minute, kind of like there is with Carlos Santana.
Yeah.
But that's a potential, 112 teams are going to be interested in Carlos Santana potentially. So he would have to have another month that he's like that he had this year or this last month to be able to probably even have a shot at that point. But that's
frankly not going to count on that happening.
Sure. But that's where we're at. Like they're wanting to squeeze out all the trade value they can with Carlos Santana. And he's going to have another month of what he's had this last month and then possibly more in order to be dealable at the deadline. It kind of always has to be mentioned, but this is the Vinnie Pasquentino stuff.
I know you were the eternal optimist and you've been on the, trying to get squeeze everything in Carlos Santana. What do you think is more realistic and likely? A Carlos Santana DFA or the Royals actually get something for him in a trade?
Honestly, the most likely to me is they don't deal him, they don't find a suitor for him, and he finishes the year out with the Royals. That just seems like a thing that would happen for some reason. I don't really, I mean, that's just a gut. That's like I know you said I'm like the eternal optimist when it comes to Carlos Santana, but that might be the pessimistic side of me to coming out being like, that would just be the worst thing.
I hate that you're right.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on the week that was on the minor league side?
I wish they would stop going 2-4.
That
as a collective.
Win ball games, #analytics.
Yeah, but I am excited to get out there, and I've never been to a minor league baseball game, period. So this is my first round of minor league baseball, and I'm pumped to see it.
That was what I grew up going to. I didn't. I went to some, like lived in Washington State for about 6 years. Went to a few Mariners games here and there. Went a lot, like in 99, 2000, 2001 when they were actually good and fun. But Tacoma Rainiers are right down the road, that AAA affiliate. One of my favorite minor league memories as I saw King Felix's last start before he got called up in 2005.
That's awesome, man.
My family and I, we had just moved from, interestingly enough, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, out to Fort Lewis, Washington. And the stadium was packed on like a random like Wednesday night or something like that. Like we had just gotten there and my dad's like, who is this kid? Like, why is everyone here? They're like, it's for him. And it was for King Felix. It was his last start. He got called up the next week, and then the rest was history for the Kings.
The rest is history, yeah.
Yeah, that's so that was pretty cool. And then lived in Fort Knox, Kentucky for a couple of years. Went to the Louisville Bats, AAA for the Reds.
Yeah.
Had a field trip out there to a game when I was in first grade. There was a benches clearing brawl in that one, which was kind of dope. Play at the plate, catcher gets plowed, and both benches just go. It was awesome. My little league team got to run out on the field for the national anthem for a game. So I got to stand next to the first baseman. I can't remember who it was, but for the national anthem. So those are some cool. Minor league baseball is some of what makes America great. Like it is wacky logos and jerseys and people of all kinds coming out for $2 beers and a little bit of baseball.
Yeah. Like, closest thing to minor league baseball I've ever gotten like in person is listening to Cheap Seats by Alabama and just being like, man, that sounds awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we like our beer as flat as can be, like our dogs with mustard and relish. Me too. I like both of those things.
Yeah, it's what makes everything great, and we can't thank you guys enough for the support that you give us, so we can continue to do this, and you guys actually listen to us ramble about baseball. Final thoughts before we get out of here. This is not Royals related, but we're going to talk about final thoughts are baseball related, unlike last week, but this is non-Royals related. What was the best thing you saw in baseball this week?
I mean, it is still kind of Royals related, but he's pitching for another team now. But Jorge Lopez coming to town, just kind of a reminder of how good of a season he's had. And then Alec Lewis had the article posted I think it was today or yesterday, about his struggles with his son having the 2 different autoimmune diseases, and kind of his struggles as paying for like transplants when he's just in like high A ball and stuff like that. Just a really good story. I mean, I know he didn't have the most success in when he was in Kansas City, and that probably left a sour taste in a lot of fans' mouth. But I mean, everybody just seems to be glowing about Jorge Lopez. It's just good to see a dude having success after struggling so much. So shout out Jorge Lopez.
We will always have the near perfect game.
Just so
into
close.
The ninth. We will always have that. If nothing else, Jorge Lopez. But that was an incredible story. I didn't know anything about that until that article got posted. More of what makes baseball great. I've watched so much of the College World Series stuff, like the regionals and supers over the last couple of weeks. That is some of like peak baseball stuff, where it is guys like, obviously there's NIL now, and there are certain dudes making some money and all that good stuff, and as they should, but they play with such a fire and a passion, and like they hit a home run and they're just running around the bases, losing their mind, and they get to go, they go to home plate and they have like a robe, like Tennessee has like a robe that they wear. Virginia Tech has a hammer that they swing, and like just little things like that are just, it's what makes the game great. And to see these fan bases get into it and sell out for college baseball, like what you saw at East Carolina, like 7,500 people there, thousands just sitting out in the outfield watching the game, or they have it on their TVs in the tailgate in the parking lot. I mean, it's just incredible. And if you have the opportunity to go to Omaha, do it. Go to the College World Series. It is one of the best experiences you will ever have. Alex and I, on a whim, decided to go to the Vanderbilt-Arizona game last year. Saw Kumar Rocker pitch. It was a game went like 12 or 13 innings, but it was amazing. So if you have the opportunity to go do it, because college baseball is amazing. And I know that it may turn fans off, like the pace of the game isn't great. The quality of play isn't always great, but the fire that these dudes play with and the passion with which they play is what makes the game great.
As an SEC boy, it's just, you hate to see Tennessee go down. You just hate to see it.
That was I did not expect that at all.
No, I don't think anybody did.
Well, and what's
that was huge.
So I didn't watch a ton of Tennessee baseball this year, but I did watch a lot of Ben Joyce. I feel like we are being robbed of watching a dude throw 104 in Omaha. Yeah. And that makes me upset. That makes me upset.
He's eligible to come back, right? Or is he draft eligible?
I think he's draft eligible.
Ah, okay.
Because he was a JUCO kid. So yeah, he's draft
eligible. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, being robbed of watching him go in Omaha, that is a little bit of a bummer. But I don't hate to see the kid that was flipping off the outfield as he ran around the bases. Yeah.
Get a taste
like some of that
taste
stuff.
Of that karma.
A little bit. But that's, again, what makes baseball great, because Notre Dame went into the number 1 team in the country that no one thought. Everyone's like, it's Tennessee. They're gonna run away with a national championship this year.
Yeah.
But God, I'm disgusted that I have to watch Oklahoma and Texas in the College World Series.
But that's
tough scene.
That's a tough pill to swallow. 100%.
Especially like Women's College World Series. I had to watch Oklahoma and Texas in the national championship, and then I have to watch them in the College World Series. It's like, oh, yeah, God, it makes me sick. Yeah. All right. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, I don't think so.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining for this episode. We'll talk to you all next
Miss you,
week.
Alex. Hope you survived your Survivor Man.
Yeah, doing some Bear Grylls stuff out in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
Drinking his own pee out of some snakeskin.
And we're off the rails. We'll talk to you all next week.